DC and Marvel Comics used to have fairly regular comic book crossovers.
This tradition started way back in the 70s with a few different Superman and Spider-Man crossover books.
We've also seen Batman and the Punisher, X-Men and the Teen Titans, the Justice League and the Avengers, the list goes on and on.
The coolest crossover that they ever did, in my opinion, was Amalgam Comics.
What if DC and Marvel Comics combined? This is a topic that every comic reader has fantasized about from time to time, and Amalgam Comics explores just that. In 1996, there was a Marvel vs. DC miniseries wherein fans could write in and vote for which company's character would win in a fight. This basically boiled down to the more popular character winning, which explains Spider-Man defeating Superboy. The plot of this series is that there is a physical embodiment of the Marvel universe and a physical embodiment of the DC universe. These brothers, as they are referred to, have characters from each of their universes battle each other to determine which universe will survive.
It's really weird and a little bit meta, but I really enjoy it.
To prevent the brothers from destroying each other, DC's Spectre and Marvel's Living Tribunal create an amalgamated universe where characters, locations, and events are literally fused together. Under the Amalgam label, DC Comics and Marvel Comics work together to produce 24 comic books, giving us peeks into what the amalgamated universe would look like. Here are, in my opinion, the top 10 characters from Amalgam Comics.
Number 10. Speed Demon.
Speed Demon is an amalgamation of the Flash and Ghost Rider. This comic is written really poorly, but the idea of combining these two heroes is really cool, so I'll try and make as much sense of it as I can. Blaze Allen, a mix of Johnny Blaze and Barry Allen, was a motorcycle daredevil and amateur mystic whose wife was killed on their wedding day by Night Spectre, a mix of Marvel's Nightmare and DC's Spectre. In order to save his wife, the wizard Merlin bonded Blaze's soul to Etrigan the demon, and he became Speed Demon. He kills evil people so the Night Spectre can take their souls. One of these evil people being Harvey Osborn, a mix between Two-Face and the Green Goblin. The Night Spectre turns on Speed Demon and brings him to his Sanctum of Lost Souls. Meanwhile, Blaze's nephew Wally learns of his uncle Blaze's powers and is offered the chance to save his uncle by the wizard Merlin. Wally also becomes a Speed Demon, or Kid Demon, and breaks into Night Spectre's sanctum and rescues his uncle Blaze. Kid Demon then becomes Speed Demon's superhero sidekick.
Number 9. Doctor Strange Fate.
Doctor Strange Fate is an amalgamation of Dr. Fate and Doctor Strange and Charles Xavier. Having the combined powers of all three characters, he is extremely powerful. While he isn't a villainous character, he is a villain in Amalgam Comics. You see, there was a character named Access who was able to teleport between the Marvel and DC universes. Since those universes combined, he has been working to help separate them once again. Doctor Strange Fate enlists the help of the White Witch, a mix of the Scarlet Witch and Zatanna, to capture Access and bring him back to him. He explains to Access that while he bears him no malice, he must kill him in order to ensure the continuation of this reality. Access, however, is able to escape by jumping out of a window and teleporting himself away.
Number 8. Dare the Terminator.
Dare the Terminator is a female amalgamation of Daredevil and Deathstroke. Her real name is Slade Murdoch, and she is a blind mercenary with super enhanced senses. One of her non-functioning eyes was shot out by Deadeye, who is a mix of DC's Deadshot and Marvel's Bullseye. Dare and fellow assassin Cat'Eye, a mix of Elektra and Catwoman, are hired by an anonymous benefactor to kill the Big Question, the mayor of New Gotham City, who is a mix of the Riddler and the Kingpin. Only it turned out to be a trap set up by the Big Question himself, who wanted to kill the two would-be assassins, which would skyrocket his political popularity. The Big Question does successfully kill Dare, but he is then defeated by Cat'Eye, who leaves an anonymous tip to the Gotham Bugle reporter Jimmy Ulrich, letting him know that the Big Question was alive but hanging, beaten and bruised from the top of his own skyscraper. The resulting story ruins his political career. Dare was then resurrected by Doctor Strange Fate.
Number 7. Bruce Wayne, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Bruce Wayne, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. is an amalgam comic where Bruce Wayne's parents were spies that were assassinated by Hydra. Seeking revenge, Bruce enlists in S.H.I.E.L.D., where he is trained by Nick Fury and Sergeant Rock. Armed with weaponry crafted by a wheelchair-bound Tony Stark, Bruce brings the fight to Hydra with his young sidekick Moonwing, who's a mix of Moon Knight and Nightwing. Dick Grayson was a young circus acrobat who developed a split personality named Mark Spector. Bruce Wayne saw potential in him and recruited him into S.H.I.E.L.D., where he became Moonwing. Bruce is in love with fellow S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Black Bat, who's a mix of Black Cat and Batgirl. Together they fight Hydra, which is composed of characters like Madam Cat, who is a mix of Catwoman and Madam Hydra, Nuke, who is a mix of Marvel's Nuke and DC's Bane, and the Green Skull, who is a mix of Lex Luthor and the Red Skull.
Number 6. Amazon.
Amazon is an amalgamation of Storm and Wonder Woman. Ororo is a mutant who was raised by the Queen of the Amazons. You see, after a man unknowingly stole from Poseidon, he was cursed by the vengeful god. Seeking to end the curse, the man boarded a ship and dropped the stolen item back into the ocean. Only Poseidon, in his rage, destroyed the ship. The only survivor was Ororo, who was just a child at the time. She was rescued by the Queen of the Amazons and raised as one of her own alongside her biological daughter, Diana. Much like Storm, Amazon is able to control the weather and was also trained by the Amazons to focus her powers into a lasso of lightning that could make anyone tell the truth. She would go on to join the JLX, which is a mashup of the Justice League and the X-Men.
Number 5. Bullets and bracelets.
Did you know Wonder Woman and the Punisher have a child together? Well, kind of. Let me explain. After her sister Ororo became the hero of Themyscira, Diana Prince left and became a hero for hire called Freelance. Meanwhile, Trevor Castle, who is an amalgamation of Marvel's Frank Castle and DC's Steve Trevor, became a gun-toting vigilante after his family was killed by the Mafia. He called himself the Punisher and he was almost killed by a criminal, but his life was saved by Freelance. The two then fell in love and had a child, but broke up shortly afterward. Thanos' side, a mix of Thanos and Darkseid, then kidnapped their child, and the two of them had to team up and fight through a bunch of Thanos' goons to free him. It seems like all is lost when Thanos' captures Freelance and seemingly destroys the baby. The Punisher almost kills one of Thanos' goons, Kanto, in retaliation when Freelance stops him. She recognizes Kanto as their child. Thanos' didn't destroy their baby, he sent him into the past and raised him as his own. With his evil plot to make them kill their own child ruined, Thanos' then transports Kanto to New Asgard and the Punisher and Freelance back to Earth, where the two embrace each other and fall in love again.
Number 4. Iron Lantern.
Iron Lantern is an amalgamation of Iron Man and Green Lantern. One day, billionaire inventor Hal Stark was working on a flight simulator that suddenly started flying and crash-landed next to a spaceship. Badly injured in the crash, Hal was able to keep himself alive by finding a Green Lantern in the alien wreckage and using it to create himself a set of armor that would keep his heart beating. The armor would also grant him fantastic powers, allowing him to create any object he could imagine out of green energy. Hal would then fight crime under the alias Iron Lantern, fighting criminals like Hector, the highly evolved creature totally oriented on revenge, who is a mix of Marvel's MODOK and DC's Hector Hammond. Another one of his villains is Mandarin Esto, a mix of DC's Sinestro and Marvel's Mandarin.
Number 3. Spider-Boy.
Spider-Boy is an amalgamation of Spider-Man's clone, Ben Reilly, and Superman's clone, Superboy. During an attempt to create a clone of Super Soldier, a Superman and Captain America amalgamation, geneticist Peter Parker was killed in an explosion and the clone was awakened prematurely. While this clone didn't have all of the powers of Super Soldier, he did have the power to manipulate gravity, allowing him to stick to walls. Project head Thunderbolt Ross adopted the clone and named him Peter Ross, after his creator Peter Parker and himself. After the General, or Uncle Jen as Pete called him, was killed by a mugger, Peter became the amazing Spider-Boy to stop criminals. Armed with a special pistol dubbed the Web Shooter that shoots webbing, Spider-Boy would take on foes like Bizarnage, a mix of Bizarro and Carnage. In this universe, Pete and Dr. Octopus are best friends, and Doc Ock even sets Peter up on a date with Mary Jane the Insect Queen, who is a mix of Lana Lang the Insect Queen and, well, Mary Jane. The two hit it off and get engaged.
Number 2. Super Soldier.
Super Soldier is an amalgamation of Captain America and Superman. After an alien spaceship lands on Earth with a dead baby inside, World War II American scientists used cell samples from the corpse inside to create a Super Soldier serum. They then injected the serum into a 4F military volunteer named Clark Kent and hit him with solar radiation, giving him fantastical powers. Super Soldier fought enemy forces in the war and supervillains such as Major Zemo, who was a mix of Marvel's Baron Zemo and DC's Iron Major. The leader of Hydra, Lex Luthor, harnesses the power of kryptonite found on a green meteor to create a weapon called Ultra Metallo, which is a mix of Marvel's Sleeper and DC's Metallo. Super Soldier intercepts Metallo on its way to blow up the White House. The kryptonite depowers Super Soldier, but he's able to crash land it into the Atlantic Ocean, where he would remain frozen for 50 years. Upon awaking, he discovers that his old enemy Lex Luthor has injected himself with the kryptonite, which extended his life but turned him into the cadaverous Green Skull.
Number 1. Dark Claw.
Dark Claw is an amalgamation of Batman and Wolverine. After Logan Wayne's parents were murdered by a robber when he was 5, he was sent to live with his uncle in Alberta. Hey, that's where I live. When he came of age, he enlisted in the Royal Canadian Air Force, where he met Creed H. Quinn. Logan and Creed both volunteered for the Weapon X project, which is where Logan learned that he was a mutant with a healing factor. Logan had adamantium bonded to his bones, while Creed became crazy during the experimentation and became the Hyena, a mix of the Joker and Sabretooth. Logan then trained, becoming a skilled combatant and detective, and took on the superhero identity of Dark Claw. He and his sidekick Sparrow, a mix of Robin and Jubilee, would take on enemies like the Two-Face Goblin, a mix of Two-Face and Green Goblin, Ra's Apocalypse, a mix of Ra's al Ghul and Apocalypse, and Lady Talia, a mix of Talia al Ghul and Lady Deathstrike. Though his primary enemy, of course, the yin to his yang, is the psychotic Hyena.
If you're wondering what happened to the Amalgam universe, that's a whole video in and of itself, but the short version is that Doctor Strange contained it inside of its own pocket reality. Marvel and DC don't really do these crossovers anymore. They haven't done one in about 20 years, but it still exists, and there's still a possibility that they could revisit it in the future. If you like this video, check out the 10 Darkest Batman Multiverse variants. I think you'll really dig it, and if I make another video on the Amalgam universe, I'll put it over here. In the meantime, let me know in the comments who your favorite character was, and if you're not already following me, make sure to follow me, a friggin' nerd.